Hey everybody, it's Wahome from Wahome Gitonga Coaching. Welcome to another episode of Business Conversation Interviews. We interview the most successful people from across various industries, from business owners, entrepreneurs, influencers, coaches, authors, doctors, and a variety of other kind of successful people you can imagine. So today I'm lucky to have the privilege of interviewing Naomi Richards. Naomi Richards is known as the Kids Coach, and she's one of the top UK coaches that specialize in helping kids feel more confident, have more purpose, and achieving big results in their lives. And so she's going to be sharing with us her key insights into how to, increase your child's confidence, how to notice your child feeling confident, and also how to keep your child motivated and help them to have a clear strategy in terms of achieving in life. So without further ado, let me welcome Naomi. Hi, Naomi.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
How's the light?
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Good.
I tried to find a light part of my house, but it's very hot today.
Yeah, it is. So thank you, Naomi, for taking the time out to join us on this interview. It's a real pleasure. So we'll start with the first question. So tell us about yourself. What is your background and how did you decide to get into your business?
My background. Okay, so predominantly, bizarrely enough, my first career choice was marketing. So my background was very much, I worked in the City of London and did marketing. And then decided that just before having children that I didn't want to do the commute, wanted to do something where I was around for my children before school and after school, and started to think about what that would look like. After doing lots of kind of, I suppose, self-analysis and a bit of self-development, I realized that the one thing that I really love doing is I love working with kids and being around children and helping them solve their problems, and wanted to bring the creative part of my marketing somehow into a career. So I kind of mished it all up and ended up with life coaching for children. So I've been doing it now for 16 years, quite a long time.
Oh, okay. So what was it specifically about kids that drew you to working with them? And what was it specifically you chose to, in terms of like coaching around? Because obviously there's a broad subject you can coach kids around. So what was it particularly what you chose into specializing in that area?
I think the first thing is that I chose children because I wanted children to have the life skills that they would need for life, right? The interpersonal skills. I wanted them to be able to grow and give them the tools to grow. And so that's why I kind of went for children. It's just difficult, isn't it, being a child and not necessarily having the problem-solving skills that you need for life. And that's kind of what I wanted to go towards. Now, you can always start off down one road and you can end up on different paths and going off in tangents and stuff. And what I realized is I started off offering everything really to do with children, all different kinds of issues. But what I would say the main issues that have come to me are around self-esteem and confidence, really, and friendships. So although I definitely wouldn't call myself kind of a confidence coach, I would call myself a life coach for children. And, this is really what I specialize in.
Okay. And so what was kind of the biggest personal challenge you faced when you were starting your business? And what was the key to overcoming that?
Oh my gosh, I suppose the biggest thing is when you're motivated and excited about starting a new business, you suddenly realize that you've got to fit it in somewhere. And I started when my eldest son was 8 months old. So it was kind of like, okay, how is this going to work? What hours am I going to work? And when I first started, I used to work something like 2 hours a week actually seeing children. And then the rest of the time was very much marketing. You know, as with any business, you know, the challenges are, how do I get clients? You know, where do I start? You know, I've got this knowledge, I've got the qualification, but now I actually need to see children. How do I do that? So yeah, lots of challenges.
And what was the key to then managing to fit it in so you could see the kids and still do the marketing side and still have your personal life?
Childcare. You know, having a really good nursery and also having, you know, kind of juggling things. So, you know, when I was seeing children, my husband was bathing our kids at the same time so that I could do that. You know, it's just thinking about what's going to work for me. How do I, you know, develop the business? When do I develop the business? And do all the marketing side. So that was very much during the day when the kids were at nursery. And then, as I said, I started working evenings when the kids were having a sleep, or when my husband was giving them dinner or giving them a bath or something. And that's kind of how it started. It's obviously shifted because the demand is obviously different. I think one definite key point was that I used to, one of the first things I did was work in a alternative therapy clinic. And so I used to offer coaching 4 hours a week, and I had a little room that I hired. And a parent said to me, you know what, Naomi, we just can't do those times. And I was like, okay, so what does that mean? Like, if I can't see the child and the child needs me, how do I do this? And what I realized at that stage is that I needed to see children from home. And so I saw this child from home, and the response was very, very different because their child saw me as being part of a family. It was more welcoming. There were not 4 white walls like being in a clinic. And so that was a bit of a turning point for me when I saw the child being so much more receptive in a home environment.
And so what was kind of like, what advice you to someone who's thinking of creating a practice, but they're just scared to make that first step? And how did you overcome your fears when you first made that first step yourself?
Talk about it. Okay, if you've got any new business, there's no point in having a good idea or starting a new business and not sharing it. So you need to talk to people, as many people, when people, you know, and be confident about it. You know, this is what I am. This is what I'm going to do. Like, don't shy away from it, because, you know, having the confidence is going to bring you business. You know, you need people to believe in you. You need people to talk about you and support you. You know, it's all really, really important. It's just knowing what you represent and talking and talking and talking.
Yeah, it is. I tend to find it is all about communications and having this conversation. Otherwise, people aren't going to know who you are. You could be the best coach in the world.
Yeah, networking groups are also very good. I've been to a few of those. Don't often frequent them now, but you know, really good to talk. Just get to know other people and let them get to know you. You don't even really need to be talking about your business. You know, you're selling who you are, not necessarily who, you know, what your business is about. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So I know you kind of touched on this a bit before.
Yeah.
So just want to go a bit more deeper in this. So what are the common reasons why people specifically come to you for coaching, and how can you help people?
So specifically, parents recognize that their child is not quite the same as they were. They may have noticed a difference in their moods or their actions, or they may be spending more time on their own, or they may be more argumentative or frustrated, whatever. Their behavior has changed in some way, and that can be their actions or their, you know, what they're actually saying. As I said, you know, the main things are probably self-esteem and confidence, and that kind of filters through everything, really. Their approach to their schoolwork, their friendships. You know, if a child isn't happy at home, they may bring it into school, and if they're unhappy at school, then they may bring it home. And so parents will often phone me and say, you know what, I know there's something wrong, but they won't talk to me. So that's one reason why they would bring their child to me. The second reason is I know what's wrong, I just don't know what to do about it. And the third one is I want my child to have these life skills. I want them to be more something. And that can be more motivated, more confident, more interactive, anything really, more polite. So they're kind of the three key areas, I would say.
So what advice would you give to a parent who came to you and said, my child is suffering from low self-esteem, what should I do?
So it's really about, what's caused it? Why, what's the change? How do they see themselves? And working with that child to see that, they are amazing. There are great things about them. Get them to focus on their strengths rather than on the negatives, and help them with their mindset. Help them have a can-do attitude. I often speak when I do a feedback session with the parents. We talk about responsibility and making decisions and making choices. And these little things can really make a difference. Don't take away the decisions from your children. Children want to be able to make decisions and make choices about, what they're going to wear, what they're going to eat, what they're going to do. Involve them in that process, and also give them responsibility. By giving responsibility, you're saying to your child, you know what, I trust you. I really believe that you can do this. Like, come and cook with me, or, I'd really like you to tidy your bedroom. Don't go back and tidy it when they've tidied their bedroom. Trust that, just make them feel good. But it's about growing our children, and really, really helping with that. And we don't want to be taking away things that children can do for themselves, really. So it's kind of, I would say it's about making decisions and choices and giving responsibility, but then it's also dealing with how they feel about themselves and working with that. My job really is to empower kids. I would say that I'm their empowerer and I'm their cheerleader. I am totally on their side. When they come off at the moment Skype session with me, I'm hoping they're going, yeah, actually, you know what, that all really, really makes sense. And Naomi believes in me, or, that thing that I did, wow, it's so good to know that there's somebody who's not mum and dad who feels really proud of me making, those changes that I made in the last week.
That sounds really good.
I love it.
According to the Mental Health Foundation, they found that nearly 1 in 10 children and young people aged 5 to 16 are severely affected by mental health problems. So, in your opinion, why do you think it's so hard for kids around mental health? And what advice would you give to parents if they notice their kid is struggling with mental health?
There's no surprise really. I think the key thing really is social media. I would say it's social media, and it's the interactions with friends. It's how people are talking to them, how they feel about themselves. It's such a multitude of different things really why our mental health can be affected. It can be competition in the classroom, and being a perfectionist, and that's not good. And this also the feeling of wanting to be in control of everything, or not feeling in control of everything. It's a double-edged sword. I think if you're worried about your child and their mental health, you really need to take them to see a doctor, and get some help. I've seen in lockdown, there are quite a few children who are depressed, or their parents would describe them as depressed. And some of that is around structure. They found lockdown very boring. They've not had so much structure. They may have been feeling rejected by friends. And what it is establishing really, are they depressed? Is there anything that they can do to kind of get themselves out of their low mood? or is it more than just a low mood, really? But communication is absolutely key. And we need to establish what's going on for our children and what's going on in their lives. And what can we do to help them?
It's really good. And what advice do you give to young people or a child who is struggling to overcome and let go of a past experience? This could be, I don't know, maybe they got bullied or they weren't asked to dance at the school dance, and they're struggling to move past that, and it's affecting their self-esteem.
Yeah. I mean, when I work with children, we try and keep the past in the past, really. I mean, if it's more than that, then they shouldn't be speaking to me. They should be speaking to somebody, about, that's a trauma expert, really. But if it's about, okay, what did they learn about that? What did they learn about themselves? What did they learn about other people? How do we bring our experience forward? And what do we need to learn? What can we leave behind? That children that have been bullied for whatever reason, it could be, physical appearance, or, not being the top of the class, or whatever, it's important that they feel strong and they like who they are. And we would need to, we would build on that. Who are they, and why do we let other people determine who we are? What do we listen to? Who should we listen to? We should be listening to our friends. And when our friends say something unkind to us, that means that maybe we've done something wrong, or maybe our friend isn't feeling so good about themselves, and maybe they're the people that need to talk. When people say things to us that aren't our friends, why is it so important to listen to them? They're focusing on the wrong thing. They really need to be focusing on the people around them that are supportive. And part of the work that I do when we're working on friendship and stuff, it's looking at friendship, looking at good friends, looking at tricky people, and how do we work with tricky people, and what kind of boundaries do we put around other people as well, who aren't necessarily in our friendship group.
What advice do you give to parents who say that they struggle to connect and relate with the children because of, like, the big, I don't know, the out of the loop of the generations, or they find it hard to just, understand children, and so there's often that feeling where that they don't understand what the child wants or where they're coming from. The child feels misunderstood. So what advice do you give parents around breaking that dynamic?
Oh my gosh, it's so difficult, isn't it? I mean, I've grown up in a completely different generation to my kids, obviously. Gosh, it's about, I think it is, some of it's around communication, is talking and understanding your child, and trying to learn from them. In some ways, they're becoming the teachers to us. What the hell is TikTok? And all the different things, musically, and how are they connecting with friends? I think that we have a real fear of perhaps social media as well, a lot of people, and parents need to understand, what are their children doing? What are they spending their time doing? Is it safe? But connecting with them, maybe watching stuff with them, or doing stuff with them that that's kind of online, that doesn't really involve them chatting to their friends on a house party, for instance. But it's you have to understand what your children are doing, and that's about communication. That's trying to have time with your children, ideally, if you can, on a one-to-one basis, regularly. That's perhaps having meal times. In lockdown, there's been lots of opportunities to go for walks and stuff. But having time for family, getting your child also to be committed to doing things in the family, as well as being on their screen, is also really, really important.
Yeah, I remember like my dad used to say, like, when he was growing up, his parents knew all his friends and they knew who he was hanging out with. And nowadays, like, they don't even know who the friends of the children are.
Okay, so I'm guilty of knowing my children's friends. I had a clever trick that I've done. I have two boys. At the beginning of year 7, I invited, like I said to both my children, right, you can have, you know, a group of, I don't know, 15 children over. And so what happened is the children weren't going to come on their own to be dropped off. So I had the parents dropping them off and the parents picking them up, like on a Saturday night, which was perfect, because then I got to meet all the friends because I was opening the door, and I got to meet the parents. And as the parents picked up, they were chatting and they were saying who they were. And I've done that. And I think having a kind of open house to some degree is good. You know, it's great weather. Yes, the kids will probably be in the park, but you know, if they can be in the garden, then great. And you know, watching them interact is so, you know, it's so enlightening, really.
That's a good tip. That's a really good tip for a lot of parents out there, to host some kind of party or gathering so they can meet the children as friends. So
Yeah.
that's a good idea. So by the age of 17, a quarter of young women tend to have a mental health kind of disorder. That's more than twice the number of young men. And half of them are found to have like self-harmed or even done something drastic as attempted their own life. What's your opinion that needs to be done to support our young people more so that they feel understood and they feel that they are supported?
I think one of the things that I think is important is really, you know, is doing so much stuff in schools. Okay, I know, you know, mental health and that subject and all different areas within it have been covered in schools, and having that kind of welfare kind of type person, but also making the children really aware. What should they be looking out for? Or if somebody says something to them, what should they do about it? You know, I know of children that have self-harm and have actually said to friends, oh my gosh, like this is what I've done, and they've showed their friends. And you know, they're telling their friends because it's a cry for help, you know, and they need to, you know, be, you know, connecting that child to a teacher, or, you know, as a first point of call, really. So I think schools are really important. That's where kids spend a lot of their time when they're at secondary school. So I think that's important. And just, you know, talking about it, you know, and, you know, friends need to support each other. What can parents do? It's talking, it's trying to understand what your child is going through, and trying to have an open conversation where, you know, you're not judging your child about what they're doing, but knowing, or them knowing, that they can come and talk to you about any of the pressures that they're feeling, any stresses that they're having, and overcome, you know, and trying to help them through it. Sometimes, you know, we have to have medical intervention as well. You know, when a child is, you know, anorexic, you know, we need to know how to deal with that. You know, so we'll need that medical intervention. You know, if it's cutting or, you know, other kind of self-harm, you know, we need to know. We don't always know as a parent, you know, what's the best thing to do. So I think it's, you know, talking about it and sharing experiences. And I think, like, as a parent, if you were talking to another parent, they're most likely to say, oh my gosh, you know, I went through something similar, or I know somebody and this is what they did. You know, it's again, you know, if we keep things really, really close and tight to ourselves, sometimes we don't find the answers that we need.
That's true.
You know,
Yeah.
I think we're too scared. Sometimes we want to be the perfect parents. And, you know, when we actually sometimes let down our guard and say, oh my gosh, I need help. Actually, there's a lot of help out there.
Yeah, I think that's true. And what do you think is like the balance between being a friend to the child and being the parent? Because obviously, you know, the different parents who try to become friends and they allow the children to call themselves by their first name.
Yeah.
And they give them that look. And then the parents who are very totally opposite and they're very strict. What's the right balance there?
Oh my gosh, it's difficult to say what the right balance is. I don't think I'd be very happy if my children called me by my first name. I think that, you know, we're teachers really for our children. You know, we're encouraging, we're passing on our values to them, we're sharing our beliefs. And I think it's important that they feel heard and that we can have some really healthy discussions. We do spend, or we can spend a lot of time with our children. And I think it depends on what kind of relationship you want. I think that most parents want to be heard and want their children to listen to them and take on board, like their values, for instance. And yeah, it's great to go out and have fun with your child, but there has to be a line. I think there has to be a line where, and that's kind of a respect line, where they're not using the same language with you as they would with their friends. And I think when we hear that language, and I don't mind getting texts that are like abbreviated, that's fine, but I'm not kind of yo bro kind of, no thank you, I'm your mum, and this is what I'd like that address. So I think it's about your expectations. How do you want your children to treat you? Do you want to be out with them and them to tell you, treat you like a friend and tell you everything, which I know some parents and their children, particularly their daughters, they have a very, very open relationship. And I think that's wonderful because their child is not scared or worried about the parents, say, passing judgment on what they're doing. But I also think that, we've been a child, we've had experiences, we do have great knowledge about some things. And, we want our children to learn from us and treat us with the respect, really. So I just think, sometimes it works in some houses, sometimes it works for others. But I do think that children need to know that you're their mum, you're their dad, you are there, you are providing them with a house and or dwelling and food and providing everything that they need for them. And, there has to be respect for that.
Well, this one's my next question. So what advice would you give to parents in creating a safe and supportive environment that's going to help the child fulfill their potential?
I think it's talking about your child, being interested in what they're interested in, particularly, like when they're talking about careers and GCSEs, and listening to what they want. So you have your ideas, they have their ideas, and negotiating. What do they think's best? What do you think's best? Okay, is there a middle ground? We all make mistakes. We can be that kind of parent that just says, okay, you know what, you choose whatever you want to do. And, you might not believe that it's the right thing for them to do, but being supportive and saying, okay, these are your choices. This is what you're going to do. And you know what, I will be here for you. We don't always make good choices. And I don't think there's an age limit on it. We can choose the wrong GCSEs or we can choose the wrong college course, but it's not the end of the world. They can change their college course. It's about finding the right thing for you. And I think we need to be supportive to our kids because they will make mistakes and we will always be there for them, hopefully, to say, you know what, dust yourself down. It's not the end of the world. Let's just, move on to the next thing. But again, it's talking to your child, really knowing your child. And we only know our child if we spend time with them and we listen to them. I think, listening's a two-way thing in any relationship.
Yeah, I think that's it's a hard thing for parents to not want to enforce their own views. Like you have obviously a plan for your children, like maybe you want to become a doctor or a lawyer. For the Spanish says I want to be an art major, or and you're like, well, actually no, I actually envisioned you going down this pathway.
But it's better to say, yeah, like you can, rather than saying you can't. You know, we don't want them to have that mentality of, I can't do this, and there's restrictions around this, and, you know, and only, you know, men do that, or women do that, or, you know, I have to be like, you know, really, really amazing at this. Actually, you know what? Sometimes the rules don't apply, you know. For instance, you know, if you didn't get, you know, an amazing, I don't know, test result in your maths GCSE, for instance, it doesn't mean that you can't do the thing that you wanted to do. Yeah, there's always possibilities, and we don't want to take away children's hopes and dreams, right? We all had hopes and dreams, right? And if our parents have said, no, you can't, well, for me, I would be like, yes, I can. And actually that goes back to the beginning when you said about being a life coach. I very much felt like when I talked to people about life coaching for children, people were saying, you can't do it. Don't be silly. It's not possible. And that made me more determined. And I think sometimes, you know, when a child hears you can't do that, it makes them more, you know, you put really tight reins and boundaries around your children, they're not going to explore their possibilities. You know, they're not going to grow into the person that they need to be.
What do you think is some of the most common reasons for young people failing to create a life of meaning and purpose?
It could be to do with confidence. It could be to do with, you know, taking risks. You know, what's the safe option? What's expected of me? I can't do that. And I think that you reach your full potential when you just throw caution to the wind and you just try something. You know, you never know until you've tried. You know, I suppose there has to be a limit of how long you try for. You know, if you want to be like a budding actor, for instance, you know, your dream is to be on Broadway and you're kind of going at it for like 20 years. There has to be a point of saying, actually, you know what, maybe I'll do something else. So I think you've got to have that self-belief and just think, how would I feel if I didn't do it? Okay, how would I feel if I did do it and it was really successful? Yeah, okay, I'm going to do it.
And what's one of your favorite client success stories and why?
Okay, there are probably quite a few, but more than anything, I love working with the child, and I've done this on quite a few occasions where we've worked together on a Sunday. I've spoken to the mum and done a feedback session on the Tuesday or the Wednesday, and the mum has said, we're not coming back. And I'm like, oh, what do you mean? And she said, you know what, I don't know what you said to my child, but there's been a shift. And actually, whatever you talked about worked. Because sometimes the child will walk out of a session and they won't discuss with mum or dad or whoever's bought them what we've talked about, but they'll be thinking about it. And their mind will be ticking over and they'll start making changes. And that for me is wonderful to know that, you know, 45 minutes and something's changed. You know, and a small tweak can make a huge difference to a child's life.
Yeah, I can feel that. This is kind of a very broad question. What is the secret to a happy child?
Oh my gosh. I think love, support, structure, good friends, plenty of understanding, and a child that's been listened to and is spent time with.
Yeah, I like the answer. And during difficult times that we're experiencing now with COVID and the whole race equalities issues, like, what are your best tips on how young people can stay motivated right now and not end up feeling depressed and losing hope?
I think that, I mean, it keeps on changing, doesn't it? So, you know, many children are hoping that they're going to go back to school in September. And I think the thing that's really been keeping a lot of children motivated is the fact that they were going to be able to see their friends. And as lockdown has eased, they can see their friends in back gardens and in parks and stuff. And I think that's made a massive difference. I think that friendship has become very, very important in lockdown for children to, either all be on house party together and have a good conversation, or FaceTime, or, or Zoom, or whatever it is, has kind of helped. I think that's kind of pulled a lot of people through. In terms of motivation, there's also, schools are breaking up. If they haven't already broken up now, they're breaking up next week. So their motivation is, oh my gosh, I've only got a week left of this to do. It has been hard, I think, for children to stay motivated in terms of schoolwork. I think that that many parents have tried to support their children through it. Obviously, there have been times for children where they just don't want to do anything at all. And I think it's been the case of, well, you can't force that. If you don't want to, if you're not really feeling it today, then why don't we leave it? Or why don't you take the afternoon off and come back to it when you are feeling it? It's moments, isn't it? Trying to get through, looking at every single day and trying to get through lockdown on a daily basis. It's very hard to we don't know what the bigger picture is. We think that schools are going back, but we're not quite sure. We won't know yet. So I think the motivation now is, things are getting easier and I can do more, and I can see my friends, and now, I can see the end to the work. A lot of children have had a lot of work and some have had very little. And I think structure has played a big part in that. Parents having to help their child have structure where they are doing work, they are relaxing, they are resting, they are spending time with mom or dad or sisters or whoever is caring for them. And what? Some really good things have come out of lockdown as well. Children have been learning skills and things that they wouldn't have had the opportunity to do before because they've had so much time. But I think, we've had to encourage them, and we've had to try and be their cheerleader and motivate them to get through kind of every single day and then the weeks. I think it's been a very hard job for parents.
Yeah, I can imagine it has been. Are there resources you could recommend to parents or children around self-confidence or mindset these could be books, podcasts, or anything resource that you think that can help people?
Well, I'd have to mention mine, wouldn't I? I have a couple of books, one of which is for parents, which is called The Parents Toolkit. And that focuses on confidence and self-esteem. And part of that is activities that you can do with your children. It's a really kind of easy guide that can help you. And also there's being me and loving it. And that's really geared to self-esteem. It's, I feel a bit different, or, I'm not happy about something. And through using stories of children that like them and the feelings that they're having, there are also activities alongside those stories. So it could be that there's a child who, finds the work really, really hard. They read a story and realize that actually they're not alone. And I think for a lot of children, it is about, is it just me, or are there other children like me that are going through the same thing? I am looking at my bookshelf. I have such a range of books relating to girls and boys. It's endless. I wouldn't even want to say one particular book. I mean, I love Steve Woodolph. I think he's amazing in terms of raising girls and raising boys. I think that's a real insight into the children that we are raising and their differences. No, I'm not going to say any more than that. I don't want to be biased.
You get it enough. That's fine. So we know what you're good at in life. What's one thing, personal hobby, that you're not good at in your personal life?
Cooking. Yeah, cooking. The first time I made a cake, I forgot to put baking powder in it, and it came out as a pancake. So I'm now better at making desserts and cakes, but I'm not great at making main meals and stuff. I've no idea what spices and stuff to use or herbs to use in dishes. There you go.
So this one is two questions in one. So the first part is what's next for you in terms of your practice? And the
Yeah.
second part is how can people reach you to work with you? Like what social media platforms are you on, what your handles are, or what your website information is?
Okay. So, gosh, I would really like to start seeing children face to face again. Because of lockdown, I'm only using Skype. So I can't wait to open my doors again as soon as I can. And so that's kind of the next thing for me, and also going back into schools and running workshops, because I love that. I love doing that, and I love going and giving assemblies to children and doing end of year presentations and that kind of stuff. So that's what I'm looking forward to, and I'm hoping that's going to be next in September. Over the summer, I definitely will be working with children. Be a lot of anxious children out there going back to school. So I'll be working with them, and I'm on Twitter and Facebook, both of which are Twitter is at the Kids Coach, and Facebook is the Kids Coach. And you can like my page, and I try and post regularly, definitely on Facebook. So yeah, I am not an Instagrammer.
And what's your website information that people can also reach out to you?
So my website is www.thekidscoach.org.uk. I have all the products that I have created. So I have a self-esteem tool called the Wow Board. And I also have the contribution board, which encourages families to work as teams. And I have several ebooks and also my books as well. You can buy through my site.
So I recommend anyone watching this now or watch this later on the replay. If you're a parent, definitely get in touch with Naomi, and she'll be able to help you with your child. So definitely reach out to her. You'll get a lot of good value from her. And the final question is, what's the final piece of advice you want to leave children or parents with when it comes to working around confidence or self-esteem?
I think, we know whether our child has low self-esteem or low confidence. It's often, it's the kind of I can't do, or I'm not going to try, or I'm going to be rubbish at that. And we need to help our children. Where do they not feel confident? Why do they believe that? And then changing those beliefs. Often a child with low self-esteem, children they have a negative mindset, and it's about changing that into a positive mindset and changing that. I can rather than I can't. And I think some of that is looking for the evidence. So a child will say, well, I can't do that. Well, how do you know you can't do it? What happened when you tried? Well, I tried it once. Okay. Did you get on a bike and ride a bike first time? No, I didn't. Okay. So you took several times to ride a bike. Okay. So what we're saying is it takes more time to kind of, become better at something, and confidence that's what confidence is about. We try something and we feel a bit wobbly about it, but the more times we do something, the more confident we become. We have to throw out that negative chatter in our head as well that says, you can't, you can't, you can't, you can't. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to give it a go, and I'm going to see if I can.
It's really good advice. I love that. That's something good to end on. So, Naomi, it's been a pleasure interviewing you.
Yeah, me too.
Amazing key insights. And I'm pretty sure that any parent or child who watch this now or later is going to get a lot of benefit from this. Anyone else watching, there's going to be more business conversation interviews coming up soon. So keep an eye out for my Instagram or Facebook. We'll advertise. Otherwise, Naomi, it's been a pleasure. And
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. And wish you the best of luck with your practice. And
Thank you.
we'll speak soon and have a great weekend.
Thank you very much. You too.
Thanks, Naomi. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.